Hey guys, in this programming tutorial I'll be going over Python user-controlled uh, user-controlled loop iterations. So user-controlled loop iteration, so the user will control how many times the loops actually iterate. So we'll go over some examples about that. So I'm in PyCharm again today. We'll be using PyCharm. Well, I'll be using PyCharm. You can use PyCharm if you want. I recommend it for Python. It's better than the one that gets installed with the interpreter. Actually, I think it's the one that comes with the Python. If you download Python from the website, it comes with some kind of Python thing. This is way better than that. Excuse me. So we'll start here. So we'll say, it's called print here. We'll say this program displays a list of numbers. So here we'll say print again, starting at 1, and there's squares again. So square root. Here we'll just call it, we'll declare and initialize a variable named end. Point it to, cast it into the input function. And just, we'll write how high, so we'll ask, well, the prompt will be how high should I go. We'll put a new line there because the input function doesn't have any formatting. So here, we'll call a print here just to space it out. Then here we'll have print so number tab square or square root, whatever. So we'll print out that formatting thing again. And here we'll say for number in, call the range function, we'll say 1 end plus 1. So we're letting the user enter the ending range. The ending range, and then we'll say here square points to number to the power of 2. And here we'll print, whoops, we'll print number, just the variable number, not in a string, comma, tab it, maybe 2 tabs, and then here we'll pass in square. Save it. We'll just run it here. How high should I go? Let's just say 20. Hit enter. So therefore the program actually calculated numbers 1 through 20 and their square roots. So we wanted 20 numbers. So as we can see, since I don't think I really need to step through this, because I mean, you guys know how to step through if you've been watching the playlist with a debugger. But I put a breakpoint here, so this will get printed. Next line will get printed. End will point to some input here, which will be casted to an int. We enter 20, so end points to, so end is an int. which holds the value 20 and points to 20. We just print a space here, which just spaces out the formatting here. We print number, tab, so we have two tabs there, and then square root, the string. We print this formatting string here with just the symbols. Then for number in range, starting at 1, ending at 20. So it starts at 1, ends at 20. Since we didn't specify a step parameter, which means like how many times it's going to increment. I mean how much it's going to increment by. Like we did that in the last tutorial. Then in that case, it's just going to increment by 1. So n plus 1. N plus 1. So n is going to equal to n plus 1. Excuse me. So then every time it does the calculation, it takes 1, square roots it, then 2 square roots it, 3 square roots it, 4 square roots it, all the way down to 20. So if I click run here in the top right corner, how high should I go? If I enter 40 this time, hit enter, it's going to go 1 through 40. Right, there you go. So we got the square root of 40, which is 1600. So there you go. We'll move on to the next example. So we could do the same thing with a start. So let's see what we have here. So this program displays a list of numbers starting at 1 on their squares. So here we can have start points to int, casted input, where should I start? Where should I start? Question mark, new line. End points to how high should I go? Print this formatting stuff. Then here we'll have for number in range. Instead of 1, we'll do start. And then comma n plus 1. That should be all. So if we run that, of course we're going to pick our starting point now. So where should I start? Let's just say we want to start at 0. How high should I go? 20. So now we got 0 to 20, so this time the square root of 0 is just 0, square root of 1 is 1. Because 1 to the power of 1 is 1, 0 to the power of 0 is 0, 2 to the power of 4 is, 2 to the power of 2 is 4. So you guys get the idea. We started at 0 this time instead of 1. If I run it one more time, start at 100. Or 50. I'll hit enter. How high should I go? 100. There you go. 50 to 100. With their square roots. Alright, so the next example that we'll do is we'll generate an iterable sequence that ranges from highest to lowest. Actually, I don't think we need to do we need to do that? Okay, so we can do these loops backwards. I don't know if I showed you guys, but here, just do a small example here. So we'll have let's see what we have here actually. So we're sorry, we're let's see. Alright, so here we go. So let's just say we want 4 num in range. Start at 5, end at 0, and our increment step is -1. So what's going to happen here is we're going to start at 5, end at 0, and we're going to subtract 1 every time. So remember, in this case, it doesn't go to 0, it goes to index -1, in this case +1 if we're going down. Don't forget the semicolon, then we'll print num. So I'll just print num here. Print that. There we go. So we got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If I run it, it starts at 5, of course, for the first parameter in range. Ends at 0. So it'll be 0 plus 1 in this case, because it goes to index +1. But if we're minusing, then it'll be index +1 if we're going down towards negative infinity. So it'll be 5 minus 1. So on the first iteration, or the 0th iteration, it'll be start at 5. So remember, the first one never subtracts or adds anything, it just prints itself. So it doesn't calculate itself on the first time. If you forget that, don't worry about it. You'll just trial and error it till you get the right output. So here we have start at 5, 0th iteration is 5, second or the first iteration is 5, second iteration is -1, 4. So there should be five numbers be printed. So it's going to iterate 5 times. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different numbers, which go from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hopefully you guys understand. First iteration value is 5. Maybe I'll show it with the debugger. So I'll put a breakpoint here. I'll click the debug icon in the top right corner. And then here I'll let's see what happens. Okay, so we'll step in here. So as you can see, num points to 5. It's an int. You can see that there. So it's just going to print it the first time. Remember, the starting iteration of a for loop is just not going to. If you're using the range function, it's not going to perform the step or the how much it wants to add or subtract or multiply, divide, whatever. No calculation on the first iteration. Basically, it's just going to print that first starting number. If I step over that, it'll go back up. So iteration 1 prints 5 in the console. Then I'll step in, it'll go 5 minus 1, print 4, step in, 4 minus 1, print 3, 3 minus 1, print 2, 2 minus 1, print 1. That should be the end. Because at the end it can't go any, can't become 0 in this case. So hopefully that makes sense. For 14 minutes, alright, so let's just see what else we can do here. So we can calculate a running total. So you can collect data from each iteration of the loop. So let's just show that here. Let's see. So yeah, so we'll be starting a new another code here. Just not a massive example, just like just not a few lines. So I guess it would be like 10 lines or something. So let's see what we have here. So we have a constant named max, points to 5, total points to 0.0. Whoops. So we have one int and one float, which the Python interpreter interprets from the data that you type. So here we'll call the print function, we'll print a line here. This program calculates the sum of pass in max, and we'll say numbers you enter. It's just passing it. We're printing this string, passing the variable max here, and then we're going to print the variable max, and then comma, and then print the second string beside it. So here we have a for count in range max. So remember, in this case, it's just going to go 0 to whatever max is, -1. And this variable is on the fly. We can just, this is going to be the variable that points to each iteration. So that's gonna be something new. So you can always have to create it. So you can usually just use I, something like that. I's can be a count. If you have a double nested for loop, you can use I and J. If you have a triple nested, you can use I, J, and K. Those are usually the that's like the standard. But here we can say count if you're counting something. That works too. So for count in range max, we can say num points to int cast it to input. You can say enter a number. And here we can say total points to total plus number. Total points to total plus number. So if we say, okay, for count in range 5, for count in range, since we have max is 5, so it's going to go 0 to 4 iterations. Then every time it's going to add the total, it's going to basically tally the total every time in the loop. So in the loop you can perform some kind of calculation that continues on to the next iteration. I think that's the whole point of this code. So we can show you what happens here. So we have these two variables. This gets printed, then the loop enters for count in range 5 in this case. Num points to cast it into the input function, enter a number. Let's say we enter 1. Total equals to total plus num. So in this case, total is set to 0 initially. So we're substituting the variables here like math. So 0, just like normal math. So we have 0.0 points to 0.0 plus num, which was 1. Then on the next iteration, that total gets carried up here. It's still saved in the memory. So for count in range 5, in this case will be count will point to 2. This is because it's the second iteration. Then we'll go num. Okay, let's just debug this. Might be confusing for some people. Okay, so let's just print that out. So 5, we have a constant max which points to 5. Then we have a total variable which points to 0.0. So we have a float and an int pointing to 5 and 0.0. Print this program calculates the sum of max numbers you enter. Sorry, so let's just print that. So in the console we have here, this program calculates the sum of 5 numbers you enter. So now we're in the loop for count in range max, which is 5 because it's hard coded to 5. Max is hard coded to 5. It's not user controlled as we explained. Was it in this tutorial or the last one? So here, I think it was this one. Hopefully it is because I forgot. So we have now for count in range. So we've gone over this at this point. So we'll step in. So of course the count is going to be 0 on the first iteration. That's why I say the 0th iteration. So on the 0th iteration, instead of first, I'll shift it back by 1. So let's say the 0th iteration. Then iteration 1, 2, 3, like that. Hopefully that makes sense to people that are learning. It can be confusing. Just remember, all iterations start at 0. So that's why I'm saying 0th. So on the 0th iteration, count points to 0. We have num points to int. Cast it to input, enter the number, so it wants input for num. So num points. Okay, so we're gonna enter a number here. So let's enter like 10. I'll hit enter. Total points to total plus num, so we have 0 point. We're gonna substitute. We'll substitute our variables, the numbers for our variables in this case. So we have 0.0 points to 0.0 plus num. Num is 10, so total points to 10 in this case. So here you can see in our variables we have total points to 10. Now after the 0th iteration, once after the loop again, of course we're going to loop back up to the condition to check it. To check the condition if it's true or false in this case. In this case we're still true because it's within the max bound, the range. So we have for count in range max, so now our count is 1, so that's still less than 5, so that's still true because count is now 1 for our for iteration iteration 1, which is really the second one. Our second iteration here is its count is going to be equal to 1 once I step in. So not yet. So I actually have to step in. This line has to excuse me, has to execute for count to increment by 1. Increment by increment I mean count equals to count plus 1. That's what it means. So I'll step in here. So then we have num points to enter another number. I have to step over that first, click the console, and then here I'll enter like 10,000. I'll hit enter. Then we'll say total points to total plus num. So if we go back to our variables here, we have total equals to 10 at this point. So now we're saying total points to total, it's gonna, so a new total is gonna point to our old total, so total, which is 10. So we'll substitute 10.0 for total, plus num, which is 10,000, so it should be 10,010. So if you look at our new total, it should say 10,010. Which it does, so then now we're back at the loop. It's looped back up to the top. So now this should be our third iteration. So yeah, you guys get the idea. It's going to continue till 5. So we'll just stop it there. So if I run this, instead of stepping through the debugger, enter number 1, enter number 2, enter number 3, enter number 4, enter number 5. I don't think I printed the total here. So we can print out the total here. Let's try that. It should tell us the total every time, so let's say enter number 1. Total, let's just say your total is, and the string, pass in total. So now if I rerun that here, enter number 10, your total is 10, enter number 100, your total is 110, enter number 1000, and your total is 1010, enter number 10,000. Number is 1, whatever that is, and enter another number, 100,000. Your total is that. So it adds the total every time, so that's a running total. So every time you loop, you can carry the values to the next loop, iteration, different parts of the code. That's all this example does. So you can save data for later, you can collect data from this loop, use it later, use it now, use it at a long time later, something like that. So hopefully that helps you with some concepts. So let's see what we got. Another 15 minutes, almost gone by, 12 minutes, so let's see. Augmented assignment operators, will we do that in this video? Augmented assignment operators, basically, so we actually did that in this video, in this example. So the augmented assignment operator is total, because total equals to total plus num, so that's augmented in Python. You can always go total plus equal num. So yeah, so let me just explain what I mean here. So in so basically basically augmented operators in, I believe this is what they mean. So you know how we had total, let's see, actually let me save that. So we had total equals to total plus num. So instead of that we can have plus equals, so you can go total plus equals num. That gonna give me an error? No. So that's so that should be, that's equivalent to, that should be this, because when you go x plus equals to y, that should be x equals to, so yeah, so this should be equivalent to total equals to total plus num. So exactly the thing at the top. They should be exactly the same. So it's equivalent to this expression here. Should be. So let's just run that here. 10, 100, 110, 100,000. Yeah, so it's the same thing. There you go. So is that the exact same thing that we did? I think so. 10, then I did 100, then did 1,000. I think I skipped 10,000, then 100,000. There you go. So we did the exact same thing. So this is an augment. This is an augmented assignment. This little trick here. You'll probably see that a lot actually. I don't personally use it. I like this total equals a total. It just seems better. It depends how you want, how you like it, whatever personal preference style you have. You might find yourself doing different things after a while. So there's minus, equals, basically any math operator, times, equals, divide, equals, probably like, you can use like a modulus, you could go power of, whatever you want. So any math operator can be augmented, I believe. We went over minus, equals, I just showed you guys. So balance equals balance minus withdrawal is the same thing as balance minus equals withdrawal. That's exactly what we just explained right here. So of course you can go, as we said, you can go minus, equals, you can subtract. You can say total equals total minus num, right, for subtract. If you want to multiply, you could say total times equals to num is total points to total. Multiplied by num, you can divide it. Modulus, power of, anything. So hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, so we'll probably just end it there for this this tutorial. Hopefully you guys liked the video. Hopefully you learned something. If you liked the video, you can like the video. Give me a thumbs up if you want. Share it with your friends. And yeah, so you can subscribe to the channel if you'd like. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.